One calm remark from Obama unsettled Trump more than any debate ever had. The way Trump came apart live on television made the entire nation pause. The lights overhead were glaring. Rows of cameras lined the stage. Red tally marks glowed, ready to send every outburst into millions of homes across the country. This town hall was billed as one of the most important of the year. You could sense it in the room. People were not just watching. They were waiting, restless, eager for the defining moment of the night. President Donald Trump stepped onto the stage inside a community center auditorium in Columbus, Ohio. His chest was pushed forward, chin slightly lifted higher than usual. The applause came, strong but not the roaring cheer he preferred. Some stood, some clapped from their seats, while others simply lifted their phones, already recording the moderator. A seasoned journalist, Stephen Radcliffe, sat across the stage, shuffling his question cards. He had overseen many events like this before, but tonight felt different. The country was shaken by overlapping crises, economic troubles, rising global tensions, and ugly battles in Congress. People were already uneasy. And now the nation's two most visible political figures, one current president and one former, circled each other without being in the same room. Barely 5 minutes in, the moment came. Radcliffe leaned forward, glasses sliding low on his nose, and asked the question the audience had been waiting for. Mr. President, he said evenly, earlier this week, former President Barack Obama was asked to give his view of your handling of the crisis. He did not offer a speech. He used a single word, chaos. How do you respond to that? The word lingered in the air like smoke. You could almost hear the crowd lean forward. Trump's jaw tightened, his eyes scanning the room as he released a sharp breath through his nose. His lips pressed in, as though holding something back. But the pause passed and the eruption began. He leaned toward the microphone, his voice louder than needed. Chaos? That is what he said. Obama? Let me tell you, nobody has done more for this nation than me. Nobody. We were handed disaster, and now they call it chaos? Spare me. His words tumbled quickly, his tone already sliding off track. Some clapped in the front rows, where his supporters sat, but farther back people stayed silent, eyes locked on him, not with admiration, but with the focused attention given to someone on the brink. Radcliffe tried to keep balance. Mr. President, if I may, but Trump pressed on. This is the usual game. The media adores him. They praise anything he says. He says chaos, and it becomes a headline. Meanwhile, we are doing incredible things, things no one thought possible. They ignore that. They focus on one word. One word. Can you believe it? The rant was underway, and the audience could feel it. Viewers at home felt it too. Notifications buzzed. Clips were already being cut and shared. Backstage, Obama's single calm remark was being measured against Trump's flood of sentences. The contrast was clear. More striking was that Obama was not even present. He did not need to be. His voice had traveled from an interview days earlier into this Columbus hall, now shaping the entire night. In the third row, a college student leaned to her friend. It is like Obama dropped a match, and Trump is burning the whole house down. The friend gave no reply, just nodded slowly, eyes fixed on stage as Trump's hands sliced the air. With each heated word, the tension climbed. The camera tightened its focus, catching every twitch, every flush of red moving across his face. The president was no longer addressing questions. He was battling shadows, Obama's calm remark, the media's headlines, the crowd's silence, and this was only the opening minutes of the town hall. Yet the story had begun much earlier, with Obama's single word spoken days before, and the way it spread nationwide like fire. It had not come from a speech. It had not been shouted from a podium or written in a long online thread. It came quietly during a calm interview. Barack Obama sat in a worn leather chair inside a small studio in Phoenix, Arizona, speaking with a local anchor about responsibility and leadership and the struggles of governing through crisis. The anchor, Julia Reyes, had walked him through questions about global instability and unrest at home before asking, if you had to describe the current administration in one word, what would it be? Obama did not hurry. He leaned back slightly, folding his hands in his lap. He let the silence linger, almost as if inviting viewers to think along with him. And then, in the steady voice that carried him through countless national addresses, he answered, chaos. That was all. One word, with no added explanation. Julia blinked. The pause that followed his answer lasted longer than the pause before it. It was not awkward. It was heavy, as if something important had been set on the table. She pressed him. Could you explain? Obama only gave a small, familiar half smile and said, "I think the American people understand what I mean." The clip aired that evening on local television, but within hours it traveled far beyond Arizona. A young producer clipped it and posted it to Twitter. That post exploded, reaching 500,000 views in under 3 hours. Then CNN picked it up, followed by MSNBC the next day. Late-night hosts in Los Angeles and New York replayed it, writing monologues around that one word. Jimmy Fallon joked that Obama's single word drew more attention than 2 hours of Trump speeches. Stephen Colbert leaned into the irony. Obama spoke for 10 seconds. Trump shouted for 10 minutes. Even conservative voices could not ignore it. Some brushed it off as wordplay, while others reluctantly admitted it struck a nerve. It was not just commentators, either. Ordinary people sees it online. On Instagram, a teacher in Des Moines posts a photo of her messy classroom with the caption, "My students after recess. Obama was right." On TikTok, teens splice clips of Trump shouting at press conferences with the word chaos in bold white letters. Memes, GIFs, and parody edits spread by the hour. Its simplicity gave it strength in a country tired of long speeches and endless debates. Obama had reduced the critique to a word that everyone understood. No explanation was needed. People filled in their own example. The conflicting messages during crisis. The endless staff turnover in the White House. The late-night tweets that shook markets. Whether you supported Trump or not, you knew what Obama was pointing at. Inside the White House, aides noticed quickly. By the second day, advisors were circulating reports showing the word dominating headlines everywhere. Cable news showed split screens, Obama's calm face on one side, the word chaos in bold letters on the other. Every outlet used it. One staffer privately admitted, "It is like he branded us with it." Trump, of course, did not accept it quietly. According to insiders, when the clip was played from on Air Force One, he struck the armrest and shouted, "One word? That is all he has? Chaos? Pathetic." But the anger on his face told a different story. He knew one word had done more damage than a speech ever could. Back in Phoenix, Julia Reyes gave another interview about her time with Obama. She admitted she had not expected that answer, and she was shocked at how quickly it spread. It felt like proof that less really was more. She explained that he had not lectured or ranted. He simply trusted people to connect the dots, and they did. By the time the town hall in Columbus was announced, Obama's word had become constant background noise. Protest signs carried it. Editorial cartoons printed it. Overnight, bumper stickers appeared with bold block letters spelling chaos. It was no longer just a comment. It had become a symbol. So when Stephen Radcliffe raised that word during the town hall, he was not only quoting Obama, he was summoning everything that had grown in the days since. For viewers at home, Obama's voice lingered, calm, steady, unbothered, while Trump's reaction would decide whether he could rise above it or sink beneath its weight. But as soon as Trump started speaking, it was obvious he could not release the word. He had to fight it. And by fighting it, he breathed more life into it. The auditorium in Columbus was not very large, but it felt charged, like too many emotions were crammed into one space. Rows of folding chairs filled the room with a mix of supporters in red caps, undecided voters curious to see him up close, and critics who came more for show than the politic. Television crews lined the edges, lenses fixed forward like eyes that never blinked. Every cough, shuffle, and burst of applause was magnified under the bright stage lights. Stephen Radcliffe adjusted his glasses again, brushing the cards on the table between them. He had prepared questions about policy, about rural healthcare shortages, about foreign negotiations with Iran, about labor strikes across the Midwest. But after Trump's eruption, everyone knew this event was no longer about policy. It was about a single word. Trump leaned back slightly in his chair, tugging his jacket before leaning toward the microphone. His face was flushed, not only from the lights, but from the weight of a question he could not shake. Each time he mentioned Obama, his voice rose. Each time he said chaos, his hands cut the air, as if slicing the word apart could reduce its sting. "Look, Obama had 8 years, Trump barked, pointing toward the audience. 8 years, and what did we get? Nothing. Weakness. Total weakness. And now he says chaos? He should be ashamed. I built the strongest economy this country has ever seen. Ask anyone. We were respected again, winning again. Then we faced challenges no one could have predicted. No one. And suddenly they call it chaos. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous." The crowd was divided near the front. A middle-aged man in a navy polo clapped hard, nodding along with every phrase. 2 rows behind, a young woman in glasses whispered to her friend, "He still has not answered the question." Another group sat silent, filming the whole exchange on their phones. Radcliffe tried to bring the discussion back to policy. "Mr. President, if I could redirect for a moment, what specific measures are you taking to fix the hospital staffing shortages across the Midwest?" Trump waved a hand. "We are doing everything, absolutely everything. Doctors, nurses, they love me. They tell me all the time, nobody has done more for healthcare workers than I have. Nobody. But do they cover that? No. They want to talk about Obama. They want to talk about chaos. That is all they want." The moderator's lips tightened, but he stayed calm. The audience, however, shifted in their seats. Some leaned forward, energized by the show. Others sat back, arms crossed, almost uneasy at what they were witnessing. The tension was not just in Trump's words. It was in how far he had strayed from the original question. On the wings of the stage, White House aides grew restless. They exchanged glances, whispering under their breath, sensing the night was sliding into exactly what they had feared, a performance that would dominate headlines for all the wrong reasons. And then it escalated. Radcliffe pressed again, carefully. "Mr. President, just so we are clear, are you saying former President Obama's assessment is unfair?" Trump's eyes narrowed. He leaned so close to the microphone the audio technician cringed at the distortion. "Unfair? It is not just unfair. It is dishonest. It is a disgrace. He knows it. The media knows it. And you know it, too." His voice boomed across the hall, bouncing off the walls. "They want to paint a picture of chaos because they cannot stand that we are winning. They cannot stand it." Scattered applause broke out, uneven. But just as many people stayed silent, and on live television silence under hot lights is louder than cheers. Radcliffe did not interrupt this time. He let the president continue, cameras recording every flicker of anger across his face. Viewers at home felt imbalanced. Obama had needed only a pause and a single word. Trump was now 3 minutes into a speech that had not touched a single policy point. In living rooms across the country, families exchanged looks. Some shook their heads. Others gave nervous laughs. Some just stared, trying to make sense of President unraveling under the weight of one word. Backstage, moderator, producers, and journalists all realized the same truth. This was no longer about healthcare, foreign affairs, or the event itself. It was about how a calm, measured word could corner the most powerful man on earth. Yet the peak had not arrived. What followed would show how far the president would go to fight a word he could not control. By the 20-minute mark, it was clear this was no longer a careful town hall. The auditorium had become an arena, each sentence thrown like a punch, each pause feeling like an opening to strike. Trump leaned into his chair, but there was no ease in his posture. His movements were stiff, his gestures sharper, his tone carried the kind of force that made even the back rows feel targeted. His words were no longer polished for persuasion. They were fueled by anger, ready to knock down whatever stood in reach. "You know what this is," he snapped, pointing toward the camera. "This is the media doing what they always do. They treat Obama like he is perfect. He says one word, chaos, and suddenly it is like scripture. But when I build the strongest economy, when I secure our borders, when I keep this nation safe, they ignore it. They never want to give me credit." His voice echoed through the room. Supporters in the front rows erupted in cheers, but the middle sections grew uneasy. A woman in her 60s, clutching a folded program, muttered to her husband, "He still has not said what he is going to do. Just keeps talking about Obama." Her husband grunted, eyes locked on the stage. Radcliffe, steady as ever, tried again to frame the conversation. "Mr. President, people watching tonight want reassurance. They want to know what specific steps are being taken to guide the country out of its current difficulty." Trump cut him off. "The specific steps? We are taking all the steps, the right steps. Everyone agrees. Governors, mayors, they call me constantly. They thank me. But you will not show that, will you? Because you're too busy asking about Obama. Always Obama. It is like no one can move on." He leaned forward, his tone rising, speaking as if directly to Obama himself, not Radcliffe. "You want to talk about chaos? You left us with chaos. Weak policies overseas, bad trade deals, broken health care. I fixed those problems. I cleaned it all up. But no, he gets to appear on television, say one word, and I am supposed to defend myself. It is pathetic." The crowd reacted unevenly. Some clapped quickly, eager to show support. Others stayed still, their faces a mix of disbelief and discomfort. Many raised their phones, capturing footage that would soon spread online. The moderator tried to cut in, but Trump kept pressing forward. I will tell you what chaos looked. It is 8 years of Obama failing this nation. That is chaos. Families struggling to pay bills. The world did not respect us. And now, he dares to use that word on me. Not going to happen. Not while I am here. His voice filled the hall, but so did the tension. Everyone understood they were watching something unravel. The president, live on national television, was no longer defending his record. He was defending his pride. And with every line, the weight of one word grew heavier. Each heated reply only made it stronger. In the front row, a high school reporter leaned to his classmate and whispered, "He is proving the point." He does not even see it. His friend kept filming, eyes wide, as if documenting a moment of history. Messy and loud. Backstage, staff grew increasingly worried. One advisor rubbed his forehead, muttering, "He is feeding the word." Each time he repeats it, it sticks more. Another nodded, eyes fixed on the screen. They all knew he could not be stopped, not in front of cameras. Meanwhile, in homes across the country, families reacted in different ways. Some shouted at their televisions, standing up for him. Others sat silently, shaken by the sight of a president breaking down in real time. Radcliffe waited for the rant to run its course, then spoke in a calm, steady voice. "Mr. President, for those watching at home, let me ask again, what would you say to people who are truly afraid right now? Afraid of losing jobs, savings, their future?" Trump exhaled, shaking his head. "I would say they should be grateful they have me and not him. Because if Obama were leading, there would not even be a future to fear." The statement landed heavy, not calming, not steady, just combative. And in that instant, the line between leadership and anger blurred. The event was no longer a town hall. It had become a stage where restraint and rage collided, and only one impression would remain when the cameras went dark. Before the night ended, the crowd itself revealed the cracks in Trump's approach. The town hall was no longer about questions and answers. It was about endurance. How long the president could fight one word before the audience itself reacted. And react they did. The divide was obvious now. It showed in faces, in posture, in the uneven rhythm of claps and murmurs with each outburst. In the front rows, loyal supporters hung on every word. A man in a red windbreaker clapped so hard his palms turned red, shouting, "That's right." A woman beside him waved a small American flag from her purse, her smile unshaken. These were the faithful. They had come to cheer, and they were not going to let the mood collapse. But deeper in the audience, the energy shifted. A group of college students exchanged looks, their whispers breaking into muffled laughter. One recording on his phone muttered, just loud enough for the mic to catch, "This is why the word sticks. He is proving it right here." His friend shook her head, already typing a caption for the clip. Older attendees looked different, less amused, more disappointed. A retired factory worker leaned on his cane, muttering, "This is not why I came." His wife adjusted her glasses, her face pale with something closer to disappointment than anger. They had wanted answers on pensions, health care, stability. Instead, they got a personal tirade. Others simply filmed quietly, their phones glowing across the hall like small lanterns, each recording a piece of history to share instantly online. Trump, however, seemed to notice only the cheers. Every clap pushed him harder. Every shout reinforced his pace. "You hear that?" he said, pointing toward his supporters. "That is real America. They understand. They know we are not in chaos. We are fixing chaos. We are winning." His base cheered, but groans and sighs rippled elsewhere. Radcliffe, watching carefully, recognized what was happening. This was no longer one audience. It was two, reacting in opposite ways to the same words. Then came a striking moment. A woman in her 40s, wearing a plain gray sweater, stood up in the middle rows. She held her phone steady as she spoke. "Mr. President," she called out, her tone firm but calm, "I am not here about Obama. I want to know what you will do about my husband being out of work. Can you answer that without mentioning him?" The room froze for a second. Even Trump looked caught off guard, but he replied quickly, sharper than needed. "We are creating jobs. We are bringing factories back. Nobody has done more for jobs, and if your husband is without work, blame the Democrats. They are the ones blocking progress." Gasps spread through the hall, not for what he said, but for how he dismissed a woman who asked a personal, serious question. His supporters clapped again, but more softly now, unsettled by the reaction around them. Radcliffe stepped in. "Let us pause here," he said carefully, because many here share a concern. The issue is jobs, Mr. President. What clear steps? But Trump cut across. We already took them. We have done more than any administration in history. Everyone knows it. The numbers prove it. Yet all we hear about is one word from a failed president. That is all you people want to talk about. A groan rolled from the back rows. Frustration caught on camera. Someone muttered, "Here he goes again." Others traded looks that said enough without word. This was no longer leadership. It was grievance. By now, the audience was not only split between support and opposition. It was split between those who still saw strength and those who now saw weakness disguised as power. The word chaos had stopped being just Obama's label. It became the frame through which everyone inside and watching at home judged the moment. Radcliffe straightened his cards, his face calm, though his pulse raced. He knew the story was not only what Trump said, but how people reacted. And right now, that reaction was dividing into two Americas under one roof. While the crowd absorbed the scene in real time, the outside world was already preparing to magnify it. In an era of instant sharing, what happened in that hall would not stay there. As soon as the town hall shifted from tense to explosive, producers backstage were cutting clips. That is how fast the cycle moved. Seconds, not hours. Before Trump even finished his rant about Obama, control rooms in New York, Los Angeles, and Dallas queued the footage for late-night broadcasts. The first wave hit Twitter. Journalists posted 30-second clips. Trump pointing at the crowd, his face red, his voice raised, calling things pathetic and disgrace. Each video carried the same caption, "Obama said chaos." Trump responded like this. It did not take long for the word to trend again, now with new meaning. Cable news joined in. CNN cut from its panel to run the segment live. Anchors talking over images of Trump. This is the president's reply to one word, chaos. MSNBC replayed it several times in less than an hour, showing Obama's calm remarks in Phoenix next to Trump's heated response in Columbus. Even Fox News ran it, but framed it as the president defending himself from unfair criticism. Then came the social media storm. TikTok users stitched together edits. Obama saying chaos, followed by Trump shouting, repeated for humor. Instagram reels added dramatic music, flipping between Trump's outburst and the divided crowd. Memes spread across Facebook. Obama sitting calm with chaos above him, besides screenshots of Trump pointing and yelling. Within 3 hours, hashtags like hashtag #ChaosTownHall and hashtag #OneWordChallenge were trending. People started posting their own one-word takes on the administration. Some wrote confusion, others anger. A few joked with words like loud or messy. It was everywhere, impossible to miss, filling feeds whether you followed politics or not. Traditional media also pushed the story. The Washington Post breaking headline read, Obama's chaos remark shakes Trump at Columbus Town Hall. The New York Times ran an op-ed before midnight. The power of one word versus the weakness of many. USA Today was blunt. Town hall erupts. Trump loses his cool over Obama's critique. Late-night shows adjusted their monologues within hours. Stephen Colbert opened with a grin. Obama used one word. Trump used all the words and somehow lost the argument. Jimmy Kimmel mocked the rant with a laugh track, and his audience roared. It was not just comedy. Analysts joined in. On MSNBC, former strategist said Trump had fallen into Obama's trap. He does not see that reacting like this proves the point. On CNN, a panelist added, it is not the word, it is the reaction. And that reaction tells us everything. Meanwhile, in homes across the country, regular people had the same discussions. In Phoenix, college students crowded around a laptop, replaying the clip, laughing nervously at the contrast. In St. Louis, a retired teacher sighed at the coverage, saying, that word will follow him for months. In Dallas, a small business owner texted a friend, I wanted answers on taxes. Instead, I saw a meltdown. For Trump's most loyal base, the uproar only hardened support. Conservative radio hosts dismissed it as a media setup. Facebook groups filled with posts claiming the story was being twisted, insisting the president was right to push back. Yet even in those circles, unease crept in. Quiet, unspoken doubt surfaced. Was this a message that could win undecided voters? Back in Columbus, the town hall ended awkwardly. Radcliffe thanked the audience, his tone professional but worn. The applause was scattered, not strong. As Trump left the stage, cameras caught him shaking his head, muttering to aides, still visibly frustrated. By dawn the next day, every major newspaper had carried the story. Every network had aired the footage. Every platform overflowed with memes, jokes, commentary, and debate. Obama's single calm word had won that day stood out not because of the question itself, but because of how Trump chose to answer it. The most damaging detail was that no one was focusing on the real issues raised at the town hall. Jobs, healthcare, and foreign policy had all been pushed aside, buried beneath headlines about one thing: a president losing control over a single word. While national outlets shaped the story for millions, everyday Americans were giving it their own shape through conversations, debates, and reflections that showed how deeply the moment had landed. The morning after, the discussion was no longer limited to television or Twitter. It had spilled into daily routines. In coffee shops, workplaces, bus stops, and classrooms, people replayed the exchange in their heads, arguing over what it revealed about leadership, about self-control, about the direction of the nation itself. In Phoenix, inside a quiet cafe not far from the studio where Obama had first given his interview, Julia Reyes scrolled through her phone while sipping her coffee. She never imagined her simple question to Obama would ignite a nationwide storm. Now, every outlet wanted her side of the story, pressing to know how it felt being the person whose words opened the door for that single response. At a nearby table, a man leaned toward his friend and whispered just loudly enough, "That is the woman who asked him." Crazy how one word from her interview shook the president that much. Julia looked up briefly, gave a small polite smile, and returned her phone. She did not need to explain anything. People were already creating their own version of events around her. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away in Detroit, a group of auto workers gathered outside a factory before starting their shift. The plant was struggling, layoffs looming like heavy clouds. Among them, Calvin Daniels, still wearing his grease-stained jacket, shook his head as he spoke to the others.